I'm Ben Meiselas from Legal AF, joined by Karen Friedman, Agnifilo. Day one of the civil trial in the New York Attorney General's civil fraud case against Donald Trump is in the books. It began with temper tantrums by Donald Trump. It escalated to outright threats of violence by Donald Trump against the New York Attorney General. Donald Trump continued to attack the judge as the proceedings ended after day one. Donald Trump seemed to have a somewhat change of opinion in the judge simply because the judge stated the law that we all knew, and you knew if you've been following our coverage, which is the date of the statute of limitations for this case does not extend back to 2011. That's not a revelation. It's what the appellate division, first department, previously ruled when they dismissed Ivanka Trump. But the reason they didn't dismiss the claims against Donald Trump in the same appeal is ultimately that there are a lot of claims against Donald Trump that are within the statute of limitations period, and specifically for purposes of determining the date of the statute of limitation. It's not when the underlying transaction took place. It's when the fraud occurred, when the fraudulent representation was made on a specific statement of financial condition on a specific property, whether that was in connection with supplying the information for, say, property taxes or supplying it for a refinancing or something like that. And the overwhelming of those claims occurred after February of 2016, well within the statute of limitations period. There's a little bit of complexity there with tolling agreements, but Donald Trump left the day thinking that was like a huge high five moment for himself in typical Trump fashion, inflating numbers. He says 80% of the cases now dismissed against me, which is just not accurate. It's more of him inflating the valuations right there. But throughout the day, you had the opening statements take place in the morning. You had one witness, Donald Bender from Meiselas, came in at the end. Donald Trump was seen visibly angry, sweaty, kind of whisper yelling at his lawyers when the Meiselas accountant, Trump's former accountant, Donald Bender, basically was saying all of the reasons why Donald Trump was liable. So that ended day one. Donald Trump stated he would be testifying at this trial. That will be interesting and likely take place over many, many days. I think we'll see very different strategy. I'll get your take on this, Karen, in terms of the cross-examination of Donald Trump than what took place during the deposition, where the New York Attorney General's office basically just let Trump speak and show how liable he was by just saying whatever. I think you're going to see a very, direct cross-exam, but a very aggressive cross-exam, we'll say, trying to make sure that Donald Trump is yes, no, I don't recall. He's going to struggle with that concept. So I'm looking forward to that moment. What was your takeaway from day one as Donald Trump seems to, it's as if he has no clue what's going on, like learning for the very first time that his lawyer forgot to check the box for jury trial, and that's why there was no jury trial. Like, we knew that all along, but it's like he's learning this for the first time. Again, also showing how incompetent he is. What's your take, Karen?
Yeah, so look, Alina Habba has shown that she is fairly incompetent. She's the one who did not check the box saying she wanted a jury trial. I read somewhere today, too, that she didn't prepare her opening statement, which, as a trial lawyer, I agonize over every word in my opening statement, and I think about it for hours and hours and hours. So I just don't understand how she can practice law and be, off the cuff like that. But she is just not a competent lawyer, in my opinion. But getting back to the trial, the substance of the trial itself, the big takeaway that I had were two things. Number one, it seems like they're going to throw Alan Weisselberg under the bus, right? One of the things that Mr. Bender, Donald Bender, who was his former long-term accountant who worked for the Meiselas firm, was saying, look, I basically didn't really audit. I just would find some mistakes. If they would say things that were inconsistent, I would point it out. But I really got all this stuff from Alan Weisselberg. And if you recall, Alan Weisselberg has already pled guilty. And he's already was prosecuted by the Manhattan DA's office and pled guilty to doing the bidding on behalf of the Trump organization, right? And so it feels like they're going to conveniently blame him and say, yeah, there were these irregularities, but it was Alan Weisselberg, the convicted felon kind of thing. So that seems like it's a convenient door that they're at least keeping open, whether they ultimately go there or not. He is one of the defendants, but it seems like they're leaving that open as a possibility. But the other big takeaway that I gleaned from the trial is really what the message that they're trying to get out there, which is that there were no victims, right? Saying, look, everyone got paid back and the banks made money off of me. And so, they not only did they make money, they made a lot of money. So there's no victims here, or there's no crime. And I think that this trial is going to do a very good job at showing how important it is to play by the rules, right? Our financial markets and our entire economy is dependent on people telling the truth, right? And it's one big, just kind of trust. And you have to, there is some verification, obviously, but a lot of it is based on trust and fair dealing. And that's why prosecutors or attorneys general have the authority to bring charges against people who commit persistent fraud, because it's not just about losing money. It's also about losing fairness in the marketplace. So, for example, the old saying that says, it takes money to make money, right? And so there's a lot of people who engage in this Ponzi scheme / shell game that is known as, as taking out money from one asset, right? You might own a building with a mortgage, but you have equity, it goes up in value. So what do? You take a loan out against that building, and then you use that money to then buy a second building that you then collect rent from, and then you borrow off that building, and it's the way we all our entire economy is built on this concept. But if you lie, right? If you lie about it, so let's just give a perfect example. His Midtown Manhattan penthouse, right? This isn't just lies of, well, I thought it was worth more. Well, my brand is worth more. If you lie in your statement of financial condition, which he is alleged to have done in 2015, where he calculated the square feet of that penthouse, saying it was 30,000 square feet. He then valued based on, you can say a price per square foot is X times 30,000 equals, he said 327 million. But guess what? The apartment turns out to be only, the size of it. We're not even talking about what we think it's worth, whatever, lying about the size. And so saying it's actually 11,000 square feet, or closer to, it's between 10 and 11,000 square feet. So he tripled the size. So that means he got triple amount of the value, right? Of over $200 million. That would give him more equity in that apartment and allow him to borrow more money that he can then use to make more money on some other property that he then lied about again, because each and every one of his properties, there is some objective fact that the attorney general can point to, not the mushy kind of, what's it worth if you have, the ground floor rented to a tenant versus not, those are sometimes squishy numbers, right? Like those are the types of things that you could say there's a margin of error, maybe 20%, maybe even 25%, because some people value these things more than others. But what he did was so egregious, where he would always overvalue his properties in an objective way, right? Not the subjective, it's my brand, in an objective way, so that he can take more money out. And then when it came time to pay taxes, right? Pay his fair share like the rest of us do, who pay a lot of money in taxes because we do things honestly. He undervalued all of his properties, right? Oh no, it can't possibly be worth all of this money. It's worth much less because I don't want to pay my fair share. So it's really about the fact that not only does he not want to pay his fair share in taxes, he wants a leg up and he wants to not play the game fairly. He's cheating. He's literally cheating at the game so that he can get more money and make more money in a way that's illegal, unfair, and unfair to all the people who try to play by the rules, who don't and can't do what he's doing because they are actually playing by the rules, which means, guess what the rules are? It means the law. They're following the law. And that's what our country and our society and our markets depend upon, is people following the law and following the rules. And there are these objective facts that the Attorney General is going to prove and already proved, which is why count one of the charging instrument is been found, that summary judgment was granted because the judge found that there's no dispute in facts, and what you did, the law is the law, and you engaged Donald Trump in persistent fraud. And so to say that there's no victim here is just preposterous. To look at it as, well, they didn't lose money is preposterous, because everybody lost money. Everyone who played by the rules lost money. And that's how it works. And of course, the Attorney General should enforce the laws so that there's integrity and fairness in our economy. And that's what this trial is about. And that's what they are going to show.
I'll conclude with
what came across to me. Sorry.
So I'll conclude with this too. As you mentioned, the free market relies on certain norms and traditions and good faith and contracts, but people keeping the contracts, people having accurate valuations. And you think about how Donald Trump is a con artist with business, a con artist with contracts, and think about one of the most important contracts that binds our democracy, the United States Constitution, which also relies on many norms and kind of informal dealing and things that for a few centuries now we just expected would be followed. But that bargain, that deal, the thing that made our country so special, the same way Trump lived his whole life ripping apart contracts in the business sense, I think he does the same exact thing with our Constitution, ignores what it says, and expects not to be held accountable. So the fact that you have a financial case and financial accountability at the same time we see Special Counsel Jack Smith's case and these other cases from criminal accountability, from the accountability of breaking the sacred trust that is embedded in our Constitution by trying to overthrow a free and fair election, I think there is a relationship there that is worth noting. Thanks, Karen Friedman Agnifilo, for that great breakdown. Our continuing coverage of the New York Attorney General's civil fraud case against Donald Trump continues here on the MeidasTouch Network. Please make sure you're subscribed to this network on YouTube so you can follow all of the updates as they happen in real time. Also, make sure that you check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch if you want to help grow this independent platform. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Hit subscribe.
Hey, Midas Mighty. Love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.